in color, the continuing story of Peyton Place. Starring Dorothy Malone as Constance Mackenzie, Ed Nelson as Michael Rossi, Ryan O'Neill as Rodney Harrington, Barbara Parkins as Betty Anderson, Tim O'Connor as Elliot Carson, Christopher Connolly as Norman Harrington, Patricia Morrow as Rita Harrington, James Douglas as Stephen Cord.
Today, a strange silence hovers over the world of Martin Peyton. A silence about to be broken by Betty Anderson Cord, who was returned to Peyton Place after a visit to Boston. Betty saw her husband, Stephen, and Adrienne Van Leyden, Martin Peyton's fiancée, leave Peyton's Boston house together. All Betty's doubts about her husband were confirmed. Now, Betty must talk to someone. The only person she can turn to, Rodney Harrington.
May I come in?
Maid's day off. You look like you've been out all night. Come here and sit down. Come on.
I'm all right, really.
Yeah, sure you are. Here, drink this. You want to talk about it?
Remember that private detective your father hired to follow me around when I went to New York?
Yeah.
I took a chapter out of his book yesterday.
What do you mean?
I followed Stephen to Boston.
Oh, Betty.
At approximately 1:15 p.m., I pulled up in a cab across the street from Martin Peyton's Boston home. I waited. And then at about 1:30, the front door opened and two figures came down the front steps. I could easily identify them. The woman was Mrs. Adrienne Van Leyden. And the man was my husband.
Well, that's it? That's all you saw? Adrienne and Stephen coming out of my grandfather's house?
Well, isn't that enough?
No, Betty, that's not enough. That detective in New York saw you taking money from a man. Why'd you take that money?
Well, to get me back home.
But it didn't look like that, did it? It looked like something else.
Rod, don't you understand? They're involved.
You don't know that.
I know that Stephen told me he was going to look at real estate with a client.
Have you told Stephen what you saw?
No.
Well, when are you going to face him with it, Betty?
It's not that simple.
Why not?
Stephen's my husband.
Yeah, well, I'm just your ex-husband. Now, what do you expect me to do?
I don't know.
Well, then what are we talking about? You don't know. Oh, well, that's swell.
I shouldn't have come.
No, but you did. You always do. And then you expect me to act like some kind of a computer, especially programmed to handle the marital problems of the Stephen Cords. Well, I can't make it, Betty. I'm not a machine, I'm human. And my reaction is always a very human reaction.
I'm sorry I bothered you.
Well, don't be sorry. Just remember that I have feelings for you that are never going to die. I can't even put them in cold storage if you keep running over here for help.
I didn't come here for help.
Well, what did you come here for? You love Stephen? Do you love Stephen?
Yes.
Well, then don't talk to me. Talk to him.
Rod, I just need someone to talk to about something that I don't understand.
Is that it? Or do you just want to find out if you've got somebody to run to in case Stephen leaves you? Hello?
Rodney?
Hello, Grandfather.
Yeah, Rodney, I'm concerned about Betty. She didn't come home last night. No one here's even heard from her. Have you seen her?
Yes.
When?
This morning, early.
Then she's back. Good. Did she... how was she? Was she all right? Did you say where she'd been?
I saw her, that's all.
All right, Rodney, goodbye.
Goodbye, Grandfather.
I didn't want to bother you while you were on the phone.
Oh, can I help you?
Yeah, I'd like to buy a car.
Well, there's a used car lot about 2 blocks down and a block north.
What makes you think I'm looking for a used car? Don't answer that. I'm Eddie Jacks.
Rita's dad?
Yeah, that's me. The long-lost father returns.
Well, I didn't know you were lost.
Well, let's just say I haven't been around. My daughter's married to your brother Norman, isn't she?
Yeah, my belated congratulations.
Well, glad to meet you, too. By golly, you and your brother sure are strange ducks. You know that?
Yeah, I know.
I mean it. There's Norman working his heart out on the loading dock at the mill, and you here all on your own. You know? I gotta admit, if I was in your boots, I'd be sitting back in some air-conditioned office at the mill with a pretty secretary and a liquor cabinet, expense account, the works.
Yeah, you and my father would get along real well.
No, not me. I know your dad, of course, but he and I just have a nodding acquaintance.
Help yourself.
Oh, thanks. No, he wouldn't be interested in me. I spent some time in jail. But I'm not the bad type, you understand?
What kind of a car are you looking for?
Something with class.
Well, what can you afford?
A heap.
How about one you can fix up yourself?
I'd rather walk.
You're honest.
Norman doesn't think so.
Yeah, well, Norman and I don't see eye to eye on everything either.
I like him. Don't get me wrong.
Well, I wasn't putting him down.
What do you think about Rita?
Oh, Rita. She's something else.
Yeah, that's exactly what she is. Norman's got you there.
If I find you a car, where do I,
Well, at the tavern. Thanks.
What do they call you?
Oh, you can call me Eddie.
Okay. Eddie, why'd you really come over here?
Oh, what are you talking about? I need some kind of a car. We just went all over that.
You were sizing me up, weren't you?
You got a head on your shoulders, my friend. Yeah, that's what I was doing, sizing you up. I want to find out if you're pro-Eddie or anti-Eddie.
Is that the way the world's divided?
I like to think of you as pro-Eddie.
I'm pro-Rita. And whatever she wants is okay with me.
Like I said, you got a head on your shoulders. See what you can do about the car, huh?
Mr. Peyton?
Huh?
Judge Fisher will be delayed and requested you wait in the side bar.
It's all right, my boy. Now then, my dear. Listen, I don't mind what you do till we return, but keep away from the house, do you understand? I don't want anyone to run into Mr. Cord except Mrs. Cord.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Say, that's a pretty handsome bucket of bolts you got there, huh?
Is that right?
Used to see a lot of them in London.
That's very interesting. Very interesting.
Old Judge Fisher takes hours to get that boat of his ready. He enjoys ordering that crew about and playing sailor.
How long will we be gone?
Oh, about 2 hours and a quarter.
Exactly?
Approximately. Long enough for Betty to decide to go home and face Stephen.
Here you go, Mr. Peyton.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I haven't felt so good since copper rose 10 points in the summer of, whenever it was. Anyway, here's to the success of my little plan, which without your assistance...
Your attitude disgusts me.
Is it your conscience that makes you spoil this happy day? I would have thought you'd been kicking your heels up. Betty saw you and Stephen leave the Boston house, didn't she?
Yes?
Well, then, what are you nervous about? Why are you so edgy? We could hardly have hoped for a better conclusion to your rendezvous with Stephen. Now, when Betty faces him...
She'll demand a divorce.
With a little persuasion, yes.
You might be in for a surprise.
Why are you playing devil's advocate, Adrienne?
Betty might not have read your master plan. She may just be so jealous she comes looking for me with a gun.
Huh, that would be amusing.
Not for me.
Tell me what you're really worried about.
Stephen will deny everything.
Of course. What about you?
Well, I will too.
Then Betty will know you're both lying, and she'll be right, won't she?
She has no legal grounds for divorce. Any attorney will tell her that, including her husband.
Your schoolgirl anxiety bores me. It doesn't become you, my dear. Talk about something else.
I'll talk about anything I please. I've danced on the end of your string. I've performed. I've finished. I've earned my money.
You haven't earned your bus fare back to Boston. Not yet. If there is a divorce trial, you'll give a convincing performance as the other woman.
Are you actually prepared to face a front-page scandal like that?
There'll be laughter, of course. My fiancé stolen from me by my own grandson.
You won't stop the laughing.
I'll endure it. Stephen will be finished with Betty, finished with his career in this part of the country anyhow. I'd endure anything for that.
They'll gossip about you. They'll ridicule you. They'll reduce you to an old fool.
The gossip will soon stop when the rents and mortgages are due and when payday comes round down at the mill.
Well, I don't want my name dragged through a scandal like that.
You can afford it as long as you're my fiancé. Whether there's a court trial or not, you'll apologize to Betty, beg her forgiveness, and when their marriage is finished, you'll be finished.
There is no proof that anything happened. Can't you get that through your head?
You're the proof, my dear fiancé. The living, breathing proof.
Mr. Peyton, they just called from the ship. They're ready to go.
Ah, thank you, thank you. Now then, put a smile on your pretty face. It's a lovely day for a cruise, don't you think?
Lovely.